97% of older men don't realize girls ask this to hit on you. Psychology tricks. Love does not consist in gazing at each other, but in looking outward together in the same direction. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. 97% of older men miss the precise moment a woman starts flirting with them. Not because you're clueless, not because you don't have it anymore, but because the rules changed quietly. When you were younger, flirting was loud and obvious. A touch on the arm, a playful laugh, clear compliments, direct invitations. Now, especially after 50, it often shows up dressed as something else. She usually won't say, "I like you." She won't lean in and make it blatant. She won't risk embarrassment by being too forward. Instead, she'll do something smarter and safer. She'll ask a question, a simple one, a casual one, the kind that sounds like polite conversation, yet it's actually a door left slightly open. And here's the part most men don't realize. If you don't walk through that door, she won't push you through it. She'll just close it, gently. So the moment passes like this. You leave thinking, "Nice chat. She was friendly." She leaves thinking, "Okay, he's not interested." You didn't offend her. You didn't mess up. You simply answered the surface of the question and missed what was underneath it. That's exactly what this video is about. The harmless questions that are secretly a test, women using them to feel you out without putting their pride on the line. These are the sideways glances, the small pauses, the curious little probes that say, without saying, "Is there something here between us?" In a moment, I'll break down 8 subtle questions women ask when they're interested, but careful, when they're attracted, but still respectful, when they want to know if you're emotionally awake without forcing you to perform. You'll learn what she's really trying to find out, why it matters, and how to respond in a way that's confident and calm. Not chasing, not begging, not acting like a teenager. Just present, grounded, and fully yourself. Because the truth is this, after 50, most men don't need to try harder. They need to notice better. And once you do, your whole world changes. You start recognizing interest where you used to see only politeness. You hear warmth where you assumed it was just small talk. And you realize something powerful. You were never invisible. You were just reading the wrong language. 1. How old are you really? How old are you really? It is one of those questions that sounds casual on the surface, almost playful, like it belongs in the same category as favorite music or where you grew up. But when a woman looks straight at you, lets the moment breathe, and adds that extra word, really, you must understand this is not about math. It is not about dates on a calendar. It is not about comparing you to some imaginary younger version of yourself. She already knows you are not 30. She is not confused. She is not fishing for a trick answer. She is listening for something deeper, something quieter, something that speaks to how you see yourself when no one is applauding. What she is actually asking is whether you stand comfortably inside your own life or whether you feel the need to apologize for it. She wants to know if you carry your years like a weight that pulls your shoulders down or like a well-earned coat that fits just right. This is where psychology tricks and female psychology quietly come into play, because women are highly tuned to emotional signals, not just words. They notice instantly if a man flinches, deflects, shrugs, or hides behind humor that undercuts himself. When that happens, she may still smile. She may still laugh. She may even keep the conversation going. But something subtle changes. The tone shifts. The energy cools. She was not looking for youth. She was never competing with time. She was looking for presence, for groundedness, for the feeling that the man in front of her is fully alive in his own chapter and not secretly wishing he were somewhere else in the story. That is why the men who quietly stand out at this stage of life are not the ones chasing trends. They are not the ones pretending the clock stopped. They are the ones who have made peace with their timeline. Men who can answer without rushing, without shrinking, without trying to impress. Men who can say something simple and honest like, "old enough to know what matters," and let that sentence land. Or who smile slowly and say, "You want my age or my attitude?" not as a performance, but as a reflection of how they actually move through the world. Confidence at this level is not loud, it is settled, and settled confidence is magnetic. That is something psychology tricks often fail to teach directly, because the real power is not in clever lines, it is in emotional congruence. I once heard a story from a man named Rick. He was 64 years old, divorced, with silver hair and sharp shoes, the kind of man who knows what works for him and does not chase approval. He told me about sitting in a downtown jazz lounge, the kind of place where conversation flows easily and time slows down. He had been talking with a woman in her late 40s or early 50s. She was smart, elegant, fully present. After some relaxed back and forth, she leaned in and asked, "So, how old are you really?" Rick, thinking he was being clever, answered, "Too old for you?" She laughed, but not the way he expected. Not the warm laugh that pulls you closer. It was a polite one that created distance. He felt it immediately, that soft dimming of interest, that quiet closing of something that had just been open. Later that night, it finally clicked for him. He had not just dodged a question, he had dodged the moment itself. He had answered from self-protection instead of self-ownership. That is what most men miss entirely. These moments are not tests. They are not traps. They are invitations. Invitations to step forward emotionally. Invitations to show how you relate to your own life. When you answer with self-doubt, self-mockery, or hesitation, she hears that clearly, even if she never comments on it. Under the surface, what is really happening is very human and very simple. As men age, they carry more history, more experiences, more lessons, and sometimes more quiet questions about whether they are still seen, still wanted, still relevant. Women feel that energy instinctively. So when they ask about your age, they are not collecting data. They are sensing vitality, curiosity, engagement, that spark that says you are still choosing your life rather than watching it go by. This is deeply tied to female psychology and how attraction actually works beyond appearances. So the next time a woman asks how old you are, do not rush to a punchline. Do not shrink the moment. Do not treat it like a setup. Be present. Be calm. Be grounded. That is your cue. That is your opening. That is your chance to answer in a way that aligns with who you are now. If she is asking, she is already considering the possibility. Your response decides whether that possibility grows or fades. This is where understanding psychology tricks at a deeper level matters, because attraction is not about impressing. It is about resonance. Resonance comes from self-acceptance, not performance. Do not apologize for your years. Do not explain them away. Own them. Stand in them. Let your answer reflect a man who knows what he values, who enjoys where he is, who understands how to fall in love. At this stage is not about chasing intensity, but about inviting connection. How to fall in love is not about pretending to be younger. It is about being more real. When your words, tone, and presence line up, that door stays open, quietly, naturally, without force. That is where the real connection begins. 2. Why aren't you married? At first, that question can feel personal, even a little pointed. It can trigger old memories, old explanations, old defenses. But when a woman asks this with a gentle tone and genuine curiosity, it is not an interrogation. It is interest wrapped in caution. That is important to understand. She is not trying to put you on trial. She is not looking for mistakes to count. She is doing something far more human. She is checking emotional safety. She is asking quietly and carefully whether there is space in your life for connection right now. What she is really asking is this: are you emotionally available now? Is there room in your life for someone like me? Most men do not hear that question underneath the words. They hear pressure. They hear judgment. They hear an expectation they think they already failed. And that misunderstanding is where everything goes wrong. This is where many good men stumble, not because they lack character, but because they answer from habit instead of awareness. Some men immediately launch into their entire romantic history. They talk about divorce. They talk about heartbreak. They talk about disappointment, betrayal, timing. and how things just did not work out. Others do the opposite. They get defensive. They brush it off with a sharp joke or a bitter laugh. They say something like, "Marriage just isn't for me," and shut the door emotionally. Both responses do the same thing. They quietly close the window she just opened. Not because she is offended, not because she is judging, but because the energy shifts. She senses weight, she senses closure, and she steps back. She is not looking for a full explanation. She is not asking for a confession or a resume of your past relationships. She is listening to how you carry the answer. She is listening for tone, for ease, for emotional posture. She wants to know whether you are at peace with your past or still dragging it behind you like luggage you never unpacked. That difference matters more than the details. This is one of those subtle psychology tricks most men never learn because no one explains it clearly. Women often listen for emotional readiness, not facts, and that is deeply connected to how a high-value man naturally shows up without trying to prove anything. A better response is simple, steady, honest without being heavy. It does not overshare. It does not retreat. It does not sound guarded or tired. It sounds like a man who knows himself, a man who has lived, a man who is open without being needy. That kind of response signals masculine energy in its calmest, most attractive form. Not forceful, not performative, just grounded. And grounded men attract women more easily than men who explain too much or protect too hard. I remember a man named Gerald. He was 67, quiet, worked with his hands, the kind of man who shows up early and leaves things better than he found them. He had been widowed young and lived a simple, steady life since then. He told me about a woman he met at a community garden. They talked over tomatoes and soil and the strange joy of watching things grow. After a while, she smiled and asked him, "So, how come a man like you isn't married?" Gerald froze, not because he was ashamed, but because he misunderstood the moment. He gave a stiff answer, something short, something closed. Then he quickly changed the subject. A week later, she stopped coming to the garden. Later, Gerald said something that stayed with me. He said, "I didn't realize she was asking because she was thinking about us. I thought she was just being polite." That sentence explains everything. That is the pattern. These moments do not announce themselves. They do not come with instructions. They show up disguised as small talk, as curiosity, as gentle questions. And if you miss them, they pass quietly, not dramatically, not with conflict, just with absence. If your answer sounds bitter or closed, she steps back. Not angrily, not emotionally, just internally. If it sounds calm, open, and lightly warm, it tells her everything she needs to know. It tells her you are not living in the past. It tells her you are not stuck. It tells her there is space. That is how you attract women without chasing. That is how a high-value man signals readiness without selling himself. And that is how masculine energy communicates safety instead of pressure. Do not treat that question like a threat. Don't rush to defend your history. Don't downplay yourself. Don't turn it into a joke that shuts the door. Be present, be relaxed, be honest, but concise. That is strength. That is confidence. That is clarity. You must understand that attraction at this stage of life is less about excitement and more about emotional steadiness. Women are not asking whether you are perfect. They are asking whether you are available. This is not about convincing someone. It is about allowing the moment to breathe. When you answer with calm ownership of your life, you create space for curiosity to grow. That is how connection starts. Quietly, naturally, without pressure. This is why understanding these psychology tricks matters, not so you can manipulate, but so you stop accidentally closing doors you did not even know were open. A high-value man does not explain why he is worthy. He shows it in how he responds, in how he pauses, in how he speaks about his life without resentment or defensiveness. Masculine energy, when healthy, feels settled. It feels clear. And clarity is deeply attractive. When you answer that question with grounded honesty, you do more than respond. You invite. And that invitation is often exactly what she was hoping for. And here's the truth most men miss. That question wasn't pressure, it was an opening. If this hit home for you, drop a comment right now and write, "I answer with calm, not defense." Like this video, subscribe for more sharp psychology tricks, And remind yourself daily, the right response doesn't explain your past, it invites your future. 3. Do you usually date younger women? When a woman asks you, do you usually date younger women? Understand this calmly and clearly. This is not small talk. It's not idle curiosity. It's not a question about your dating history. And it's not a trap the way many men assume. It's a psychological signal, a subtle test, a quiet door opening. 97% of older men miss this because they react too fast instead of taking control of the moment. They answer like they're listing credentials instead of speaking as a man with an iron mind. They focus on age instead of energy, and they forget what old Stoic wisdom has always taught. Whoever controls the frame leads the outcome. When she asks this, she's checking your openness, your emotional steadiness, your confidence, and your ability to see possibility without tension. What she's really asking is, can you see me as a real option, or do you hide behind labels? Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish. And in modern life, that means you don't rush to explain, defend, or impress. You stay grounded, you stay centered. You answer from presence, not memory. Men who fail here usually joke nervously, deny interest too quickly, or overcompensate. All three signal insecurity. A man who understands psychology knows attraction doesn't come from the information you give, but from how you hold yourself under pressure. The right answer keeps the focus on connection, values, and shared energy. Attraction is not about numbers, it's about alignment. Marcus Aurelius said, the quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. And today, that means your success with people depends on your emotional control. I once watched a man named Marcus, 59 years old, sharp, well-dressed, not trying to impress anyone. When she asked him that question, he smiled and said, I like women who bring good energy into my life. One sentence, no explanation, no justification. That sentence led to dinner. Dinner led to something deeper. That's the power of presence. That's Stoicism win in real life, not on a page. In a modern world full of noise, distraction, and insecurity, the man who slows down, chooses his words, and doesn't chase validation immediately stands out. Seneca said, he who is brave is free, and freedom here means not being shaken by questions designed to test you. At its core, she's checking whether you're flexible or rigid, curious or closed, steady or hesitant. Your job is not to persuade her, but to show you're grounded. You know who you are. You value connection over categories. Women aren't drawn to age. They're drawn to emotional safety, clarity, and direction. And direction begins with how you speak. Repeat this until it's etched into your thinking. Calm over reaction. Presence over performance. Leadership over defense. That is an iron mind. You don't say yes to impress. You don't say no to protect an image. You speak from your standards. Standards delivered calmly create respect. Modern life trains men to over-explain, apologize for preferences, and negotiate attraction like a debate. Old Stoic wisdom reminds us that strength is quiet, direction is subtle, and confidence is felt before it's understood. When you answer with clarity and warmth, you show comfort with your life. You choose people, not labels. That makes you memorable. This isn't manipulation. This is self-mastery, and self-mastery always reads as confidence. Marcus Aurelius said it best, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Attraction responds to embodiment, not performance. If you want advice that actually works, here it is. When asked questions like this, breathe, smile, slow your speech, and answer from values, not fear. Fear shrinks presence. Presence expands opportunity. Remember it again. Connection over age, calm over reflex, direction over defense. Men who live this way win quietly, consistently, without chasing approval. That's why Stoicism win is not a slogan, but a way of life. In a world obsessed with youth, noise, and attention, the man with an iron mind becomes rare, and rarity creates attraction. Carry this lesson into dating, business, and every relationship you touch. Control your response. Own your values. Let your presence speak. When you do that, you don't just answer questions. You lead the moment. 4. What kind of woman do you usually go for? When a woman looks at you and asks, "What kind of woman do you usually go for?" Don't brush it off, don't joke it away, don't answer on autopilot, because that simple sentence is not small talk, and it is not idle curiosity. It is a quiet test wrapped in warmth, a moment where female psychology reveals itself in plain sight. She is not collecting trivia about your past. She is measuring the space where she might belong. She is comparing herself to an image she suspects you carry. She is weighing whether your heart is open or already furnished with rigid expectations. That is why this question matters more than most men realize, especially men who have lived, loved, lost, and learned. Experience can make you wiser, or it can make you guarded. She needs to know which one you are. She needs to know if you are still chasing a polished idea or if you are ready for a real connection that breathes and evolves. This is where psychology tricks quietly enter the room, not as manipulation, but as signals. The question is a doorway, and how you walk through it tells her everything about how to fall in love with you, or whether it is even safe to try. I once spoke with a man named Elliot. He was 62 years old, thoughtful, composed, the kind of man who had learned to speak slowly because life had taught him the cost of careless words. When I asked him what kind of woman he usually went for, he paused. Not because he was unsure, but because he was honest. He said, "I guess I like someone calm, someone who makes a place feel peaceful just by being there." The words sounded gentle, even poetic. But what mattered more was what followed. Later, the woman he was speaking with said softly, "I was hoping I was your type." In that moment, the entire exchange clicked into focus. Her original question was never about preference alone. It was about permission. Permission to step closer, permission to be seen, permission to imagine herself beside him without having to reshape who she already was. This is the part 97% of older men don't realize. They answer as if they are describing furniture or ordering a meal, listing traits without understanding that every word either opens a door or quietly closes it. You must understand this clearly. Don't describe a checklist. Don't describe a fantasy frozen in time. Be present. Be human. Be aware that she is listening for flexibility, for warmth, for the possibility that connection matters more than perfection. Female psychology is deeply attuned to emotional safety, and this question is her way of checking whether you offer it. If you answer as though love is a narrow hallway only a certain shape can fit through, she will step back. No argument, no drama, just understanding. She has learned her own psychology tricks too, and one of them is knowing when not to push. But if you answer in a way that shows openness, curiosity, and emotional range, something shifts. The question becomes a bridge instead of a test. That is how to fall in love actually begins. Quietly, subtly, without fireworks. Real attraction at this stage of life is less about chasing and more about recognizing. Remember this: don't perform, don't impress, don't try to sound clever, be grounded, be sincere. Let your answer breathe and evolve as the conversation does. She is not asking you to define your future. She is asking whether she might be allowed to exist in it as herself. That is why this single question carries so much weight. It reflects years of emotional learning on her side and years of emotional habit on yours. When you answer with care, when you speak about how someone makes you feel rather than how someone compares to others, you create a sense of calm that no charm can replace. That calm is magnetic, especially to a woman who has learned that peace is not boring. Peace is rare. This is where psychology tricks, female psychology, and how to fall in love quietly intersect again. Love at this stage is not loud. It is deliberate. It is chosen. It is built on moments like this where two people gently test the ground before stepping forward. Treat that moment with respect. It is an invitation, not an interrogation. When you meet it with presence instead of habit, with openness instead of assumptions, you show her something powerful without ever saying it directly. You show her that you are not stuck chasing an image. You are available for a real connection. And that is something no age can diminish, only deepen. If this opened your eyes, don't scroll past it. Like the video, subscribe for more insight, and share it with a man who still thinks that question is just small talk. Then drop this in the comments to lock it in your mind and make it real. She isn't asking my type, she's asking if I'm open to real connection. 5. Are you always this charming? When a woman looks at you and asks, "Are you always this charming?" Pause right there. Don't rush. Don't wave it away. Don't laugh it off like it's nothing. It sounds like a compliment, yes, but it carries more weight than most men realize, especially men who have lived long enough to know that attraction rarely announces itself loudly. That question is not filler. That is a probe. She is checking your awareness. She is testing your ease with yourself. She is seeing whether you own the moment or abandon it. Many men deflect. They shrug. They minimize. They joke themselves out of the room. And just like that, the spark fades. Not because she lost interest, but because she learned something important about how you handle attention, presence, and possibility. This is where understanding matters. Don't misunderstand the moment. Be calm. Be grounded. Be willing to stay in the frame. When she says, "Are you always this charming?" she is not asking for a resume of your personality. She is asking if what she feels right now is real, repeatable, and rooted. She is asking whether this energy is who you are or just something you switch on for effect. That is why deflection costs you. When you dodge the moment, you signal uncertainty. You signal discomfort with being seen. And attraction does not grow in places where attention collapses. That is why Alan's response matters. Alan was 68 years old. He had nothing to prove and nothing to rush. When she asked him that question, he didn't duck. He didn't over-explain. He didn't puff himself up. He simply smiled and said, "That depends. Are you always this curious or am I just lucky?" Notice what happened there. He stayed present. He matched the tone. He turned the moment into a shared space instead of a solo performance. He didn't grab the spotlight. He invited her into it. She held his gaze a little longer, not by accident, by design. That exchange tells you everything you need to know about how attraction actually works later in life. It is not about lines. It is not about tricks. It is about responsiveness. It is about emotional agility. It is about knowing when to stand still instead of stepping back. A high-value man understands this instinctively. He doesn't rush to deny a compliment. He doesn't act surprised by interest. He allows the moment to land. He understands that confidence is quiet, not noisy. You must understand this clearly. Don't confuse humility with disappearance. Don't confuse politeness with retreat. Be comfortable receiving interest without shrinking. Be steady without being stiff. When a woman offers you a moment like that, she is offering connection, not judgment. Your job is not to perform. Your job is to participate. That is how you attract women without chasing them. This is also where masculine energy shows itself in a subtle but powerful way. Masculine energy is not about control or force. It is about containment. It is about being able to hold attention without rushing to escape it. When you can stay present under a woman's gaze, when you don't fidget emotionally or verbally, you create safety. And safety is attractive, especially to a woman who has learned that charm without depth fades quickly. Many men believe attraction is built by adding something extra, a clever remark, a stronger joke, a bigger personality. That is a mistake. Attraction often grows when you remove friction, when you stop interrupting the moment with self-doubt, when you stop explaining yourself out of curiosity, when you stop trying to manage the outcome. That is what Alan did instinctively. He didn't escalate. He didn't retreat. He stayed right where he was. Be aware of this. Don't answer these moments mechanically. Be intentional. Be responsive. When you respond with presence, you communicate value without saying a word. That is what makes a high-value man recognizable. He doesn't rush to define himself. He lets the interaction reveal him. He understands that attraction is a dance, not a declaration. And here is the part most men between 35 and 70 overlook. These moments are not rare. They are frequent. They are just quiet. They come wrapped in simple questions. Light teasing, casual compliments. If you are not tuned in, you miss them. If you are dismissive, you end them. That is why so many men say, "I don't know why the spark disappears." It disappears because it was never met. You must shift how you listen. Don't listen for words alone. Listen for intent. When she asks if you are always this charming, She is exploring the emotional climate around you. She is seeing whether it is safe to linger, whether it is safe to invest attention, whether you are comfortable with attraction without needing to control it. This is where learning how to attract women becomes less about strategy and more about self-regulation. Calmness matters, timing matters, letting silence do some of the work matters. Alan didn't rush to fill the space. He let the space speak. That is masculine energy in practice, not loud, not rigid, simply steady. Be careful not to sabotage yourself with false modesty. Saying, "Oh, not really," or "I'm nothing special," may sound polite, but it pulls the rug out from under the moment. It tells her you don't trust her perception. It tells her you are uncomfortable being appreciated. Attraction struggles to grow in that environment. That doesn't mean you boast. Don't exaggerate. Don't posture. Just acknowledge the moment and keep it alive. A simple, grounded response that keeps the exchange balanced is enough. That balance is what separates men who consistently attract women from men who constantly wonder what went wrong. A high-value man understands that attraction is not about winning. It is about resonance. When you resonate, people lean in. When you deflect, they step back. It's that simple. Masculine energy thrives in presence, not performance. As you move through conversations, remember this. Don't rush past the subtle moments. Be aware when interest shows up quietly. Be willing to hold eye contact. Be willing to let a compliment sit without dismantling it. That is not arrogance. That is self-respect. When you respect yourself enough to stay present, others feel it. When others feel it, they stay. That is how you attract women naturally, not by trying harder, but by disappearing less, not by adding flash, but by removing fear. So the next time you hear, "Are you always this charming?" don't panic. Don't downplay it. Don't dodge it. Stand where you are. Meet the moment. Let your response reflect calm, curiosity, and ease. Because in that brief exchange, she is learning who you are. And if you handle it well, she may decide to learn more. 6. Why don't you have a girlfriend? Most men hear the question, "Why don't you have a girlfriend?" and brush it off as small talk. But here's the truth 97% of older men don't realize. When a woman asks that question, she is not checking your relationship status. She is testing your availability, your emotional position, and your direction in life. Attraction at this stage is not about looks or clever lines. It is about clarity, presence, and purpose. Psychology confirms what Old Stoic wisdom has taught for centuries. People are drawn to men who are self-directed, men who are not seeking approval, men who are not scrambling to fill a void, men who stand firmly in their own lane. This is why the most powerful answer is never defensive, never rushed, never needy. Hesitation signals confusion, and confusion pushes people away. Certainty invites curiosity. When William, 71 years old, calmly said, "I spent time learning how to be a better man. Now I'm ready for a better kind of love," he wasn't explaining himself. He was declaring standards. Standards are magnetic. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." That single line explains why this question works as a signal. Women instinctively scan for men who have already done the inner work. Men with discipline, men with restraint, men with an iron mind shaped by experience, not regret. In modern life, where dating apps encourage endless options and shallow validation, a man who is not chasing stands out immediately. Stoicism win is not emotional distance. It is emotional command. The ability to respond instead of react, to choose instead of chase, to lead your life so completely that companionship becomes an addition, not a rescue mission. When you answer from that place, you communicate something powerful without saying it directly. Your time matters. Your energy is protected. Your direction is clear. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." Freedom is what people listen for. Freedom means you are not controlled by loneliness, pressure, or fear of missing out. That is why the question is not really about having a girlfriend. It is about whether you have mastered yourself. Self-mastery comes before respect. Respect comes before attraction. Here is the advice that matters now. Stop framing your life around what you lack. Start framing it around what you are building. Speak from completion, not from waiting. From choice, not from circumstance. Men who win do not advertise desire. They demonstrate direction. They move with intention. They speak calmly. They pause before answering. That pause alone communicates confidence. Repeat this until it becomes natural. My life is full. My standards are high. My focus is sharp. This is old Stoic wisdom in action. This is how Stoicism win shows up in real conversation. Not as philosophy, but as posture, tone, and timing. When you live this way, you stop hoping to be chosen. You evaluate, you observe, you decide. That shift changes everything. Modern men are told to explain themselves endlessly. Experience teaches the opposite. Clarity beats charm. Direction beats desperation. An iron mind beats clever words every time. Theodore Roosevelt said, "Confidence, not carelessness, is the mark of the successful man." Confidence is built quietly, through discipline, through self-respect, through years of choosing long-term strength over short-term comfort. So the next time that question comes, understand it for what it is: a door, not an interrogation, an opening, not a challenge. Answer from strength, not performance. When your life speaks before you do, attraction becomes effortless, respect becomes automatic, companionship becomes aligned. This is how a man masters life: through calm certainty, through repeated daily choices, through the steady application of old Stoic wisdom. Where Stoicism win is not a slogan, and an iron mind is not something you talk about. It is something people feel the moment you speak. If you understood this, you're already ahead of most men. She wasn't asking if you're alone, she was asking if you're ready. Readiness is built, not waited for. 7. Would you ever date someone like me? Would you ever date someone like me? This is not a casual question. It is not a joke. It is not a throwaway line you answer with humor or deflection. 97% of older men don't realize that when a woman asks this, she is already leaning forward emotionally, already testing the water, already inviting you into a private space where honesty matters more than charm. This question is the closest thing to a confession without actually saying the words. The mistake most men make is trying to be clever, trying to protect themselves, trying to sound impressive. The best answer is not clever. It is honest. It is grounded. It is present. That is the quiet truth of female psychology. She is not asking for a performance. She is asking whether you see her, whether you are brave enough to stay with the moment instead of escaping it. This is where psychology tricks fail if they are used like masks, because real psychology tricks at this stage are not tricks at all. They are acts of emotional clarity. Don't joke, don't minimize, don't rush, don't hide behind logic. Be calm, be steady, be real. When Charlie, 66, heard that question, he didn't pause to calculate. He didn't scan the room for the safest answer. He simply said, "Yes, I already am, in my mind." That sentence worked not because it was smooth, but because it was true. It carried weight. It landed. In that instant, she took his hand and did not let go. Not because he claimed her, but because he met her where she already was. That is how attraction actually works at this stage of life. Quietly, deeply, without noise. If you want to understand how to fall in love again, not like a teenager, but like a man who knows himself, you must understand this. Women often open doors sideways, not straight on. They ask questions that sound hypothetical but feel personal. They speak in curiosity instead of declarations. That is female psychology at its most graceful. When you hear a question like this, understand what is really being said. I'm wondering if you see me as more than an idea. I'm wondering if I'm safe here. I'm wondering if you could choose me without pressure. You must answer that question with presence, not fear. Fear shows up as avoidance, as humor, as distance. Distance closes doors. Calm certainty opens them. This is one of those psychology tricks no one tells older men. Confidence does not mean intensity. It means stillness. It means you don't need to sell yourself. You simply state where you stand. That clarity is deeply attractive, especially to a woman who has lived, loved, lost, and learned. She is not chasing fireworks anymore. She is listening for truth. Be clear, say what you mean what you say. That is how to fall in love without force, without games, without confusion. Notice how the body responds to honesty. Her hand staying in his was not planned, it was instinctive. The nervous system recognizes safety faster than the mind can explain it. That is why memorized lines never work long term, while real understanding of female psychology does. Not the shallow version, but the deeper understanding that attraction is a response to how a man holds himself in uncertainty. Don't overthink. Don't retreat. Don't ask her to explain herself. She already has, just not in words. When you answer from truth, you give her permission to step closer. This is where mature connection lives, in small moments handled well, not in grand gestures. If you are serious about psychology tricks that actually work, understand this deeply. Sincerity delivered with calm confidence creates emotional gravity. It pulls people toward you without effort. That gravity is what makes love possible again. Real love, the kind built on mutual recognition. If you ever wonder why some men seem to effortlessly attract warmth and closeness later in life, this is why. They don't chase. They don't posture. They don't perform. They respond. Clearly, kindly, firmly. That is how to fall in love in a way that lasts. Love at this stage is not about proving anything. It is about choosing and being chosen, in a moment where both people feel seen. Once you truly grasp this part of female psychology, you stop missing the signals that matter most. You stop waiting for obvious signs. You start responding to the quiet invitations that change everything. This is not just a story about Charlie. It is a lesson, one you can use the very next time someone looks at you and asks a question that sounds simple but carries a world inside it. Hey, my friend, thanks for staying with me until the end. Let me say this clearly and honestly. Those questions are never random. They're not small talk. They're invitations, quiet doors opening right in front of you. She's not really asking what she asks. She's feeling out who you are and whether you're confident enough to step forward. So here's my sincere advice to you. When that moment comes, don't overthink, don't freeze, and don't doubt your value. Stay calm, stay present, and respond with confidence and respect. You don't need tricks or lines, you just need awareness and the courage to show up as yourself. Most men miss these moments not because they're incapable, but because they hesitate. Don't be that man. When the door opens, step forward.